What page is that on, Tex?
I'm not sure what page it's on. This, the book is 624 pages. There is an index here.
I just remember looking at it. It was amazing. I was just trying to find it. Sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Isaac Tigret went over to Egypt in his own testimony, and this was in American Airlines magazine of all places. He says he bribed the guard so he could spend the night in the king's chamber deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. And at exactly the stroke of midnight, a great light came to him and a voice, and it said, "You will build a pyramid like this in our sister city of Memphis in America." Now, I recognized right away what was going on, because in the ancient mystery religions, they had an exact replica of this ceremony in which they went deep into a cave. They claimed at midnight the sun god came. They call it the sun at midnight. And by the way, Aleister Crowley, the great British Satanist, who called himself the wickedest man on earth, 666, he also said he went through the same ritual, and he met an Egyptian demon who told him to write a book about the bloodshed that's coming upon the earth. In any case, Isaac Tigret came back, went to Memphis, Tennessee, and with other rich Illuminists, they convinced the city fathers to build a great pyramid sitting on the Mississippi River, sister of the Nile, and there it sits today, this gleaming sun pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, you see how they do things, but wait, they're not finished. One of the greatest architects probably of the 20th century, the two, were Frank Lloyd Wright and I.M. Pei, P-E-I, a Chinese-American. Mr. Pei went over to France because the Grand Orient Lodge wanted him to build a great pyramid there. And he built one right in front of the ancient, or I should say ornate, Louvre Museum. Now, can you imagine a King Louis XIV ornate place, gigantic, magnificent building, and now they have a huge glass pyramid right in front of it. And by the way, the man who arranged, and I have a picture of the president of France, Francois Mitterrand, and him. Then I read in the Le Monde, the world newspaper from Paris, sort of like our New York Times.
Francois Mitterrand is totally obsessed with the occult. It was all over their news, and then he had to get this built before he left, and he was worshiping, and I remember separately seeing that. Go ahead, Tex.
Yeah, Le Monde says that Mitterrand each year, now we're talking about a modern president, okay? A guy that has nuclear bombs and submarines at his disposal. Francois Mitterrand would go to the top of a sacred mountain in France and use drums and drum up the spirits and communicate with them and get an agenda for France from the spirits. Now, you say, oh, this is impossible.
Hey, Tony Blair, same thing's been in all their major papers. He goes in.
That's right.
He goes into these pyramids. Go ahead.
Yeah, all of these people, and of course we know about Bush's satanic Order of Skull and Bones, that, by the way, those young men chosen each year from Yale University meet in the tomb. And all of these, I went back and I studied the life of John D. Rockefeller, founder of Standard Oil. Okay, now this guy, talk about the oil industry and the oil futures market today. I found out that John D. Rockefeller, his gravesite is a huge Egyptian obelisk. And I picture it in the book. I have a picture of the obelisk of John D. Rockefeller. So I found all the way back, George Washington, I discovered, his gravesite is built in the form of an Egyptian, has two obelisks and an Egyptian temple. This is our nation's founder, George Washington. So, by the way, I also found that Rothschild is building an incredible series of pyramidal architecture at Hebrew University. Now, imagine, Hebrew University in Israel, visited, and you'll see in the courtyard, I have a picture of it, a great pyramid. You go to the city of Eilat, which is the city in Israel that comes out of, when you go from Egypt into Israel, there Rothschild has built a great pyramid right in the middle of the street. Everybody has to pass it with pillars and the Masonic square and compass. He's built a huge Supreme Court building. Their intention is to make this the Supreme Court of the world in Jerusalem in 1992. And it's shaped The library is shaped like a Masonic pyramid with the capstone missing. There are pyramids all around. There are circles. There are all kind of occult symbols. Now, back to this. I'm getting ahead of myself, but back to this Standard Oil and John Rockefeller.
I'll tell you what, Tex, stay there. We're about to go to break, but we'll keep talking behind the scenes for folks watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. And again, I'm only interrupting to back up what Tex is saying for those that are out there listening. Everything he's saying is documented, Tex. We're going to continue. You've gotten to the point about the Rockefellers. Go ahead.
Well, Standard Oil Corporation has a building of its own in New York City. And I decided, well, I wonder how the Rockefellers, what architectural style did they use? So I did some research, and guess what? I found that the top of the building is topped by a tomb, the tomb of Mausolus. Now, this was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. It was called the Halicarnassus. It was built for King Mausolus of Greece and his wife, and the ruins are still over there. Now it's Turkey, because they grabbed some land from ancient Greece. It's dedicated to Zeus, the god above. And imagine it, here you have a regular-looking skyscraper, but on top is a huge tomb, the tomb of Mausolus. It's a place of the dead. And by the way, then I said, there must be other buildings in New York, and here is really a shocker, where the 2 towers went down. Right adjacent to them, really the entrance from the harbor, is the World Financial Center building complex. I found that every one of the buildings there, the top of them are all in the form of pyramids, a variety of pyramids. And again, these are all temples then to their devil gods. And I have a picture of the temples of the Illuminati at the World Financial Center in New York City. Everywhere you go, if you know what to look for, you've even mentioned the Frost building in Austin, Texas, a gorgeous new, incredible tower, and yet it's shaped like the owl of the Bohemian Grove.
And if that's not enough, they even stick big owl eyes on it. I mean, it's got the beak, it's got the eyes, it's got the horns. Just amazing.
You know, I had the daughter and her husband of a chairman of one of the largest oil companies. And I can't mention the name because I told her I would keep his name confidential. She told me, she said, Tex, I love my father. He's super rich. They lived in a big mansion in California. She said, but I know he's into the occult, and I don't know how to get him out of it. I said, why do you believe he's in the occult? She said, he visits the Bohemian Grove each year. She said, I don't know anything about that secret group, but I do know this. She said, in every room of our mansion, and she said, we have over 100 rooms, there is an owl figure. And my father, when he goes in there, he mumbles something to each of the owl figurines. And she said he's almost frightened of them.
Tex was just talking about he knows the family and the daughter of one of the biggest heirs, one of the largest oil companies. And that when he goes into each room, he has little owl figurines in each room, and he mumbles something, frightened to it, like an incantation when he enters each room. See, people say, well, Bohemian Grove, they're in there worshiping the owl. There can be Lilith. There can be any other names. Why are they doing this? This is just a play. They're just having fun. Well, I could have thought that too, but I was in the crowd of several thousand men watching the ritual take place. They were breathing heavy, grinding their teeth, very silent, until they started doing the mock sacrifice, and they were like, oh, yes, oh. And then Mike Hansen next to me was going, hey, this is a great event. Boy, that's neat. And they looked at him with total hatred, and he just shut up. This was very reverent. They said be reverent before her. And now they call it Moloch in some of their writings. We know the owl is Lilith and some other things in the cultures, but with these occultists, it's all interchanged. We understand that Moloch is a bull, but at Bohemian Grove they call it a owl. And don't we find this with the occultist texts that they interchange things and have different meanings and multiple names and multiple faces to things?
Oh, yes, because their gods morphed into different beings. You see, for example, and remember now, even the great symbol of the United States, which is that eagle with by the way, the six-pointed star above it, it has an obverse or a reverse side. So there's always a hidden side. For example, Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilts, one of the richest men in the world at one time. Vanderbilt at the Grand Central Railroad Terminal in New York, you can still see it, built a great statue of Mercury, the god Mercury. Mercury is symbolized in astrology by Gemini. He's a dual god. He has two aspects. So I always call it the double-faced gods. Remember, the Romans worshipped Janus.